All right, we are live.
Hey.
All right. And before we get started here, we should actually ask everybody in the YouTube chat, can they hear both me and Hamid? Right. We are live.
Hey, everyone.
Because our audio is going to be on different streams, so, yeah. And we got Josh here.
Hey, Josh.
All right.
Oh, let's see.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning to everybody that's hanging out in the YouTube chat as well. Got quite a bit of stuff to discuss. A lot's happened here in the last month since the last time we met. Obviously, one of the biggest news stories, obviously, is the announcement of Windows 11. I know everybody's excited about that. I'm not even going to try to avoid that conversation because I know everybody is really excited, especially since they're going to redefine what a tiling window manager is. Actually, they're just defining it. They're not redefining it because apparently nobody else had ever done a tiling window manager before.
Well,
let's see.
I'll tell you what.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it supports dynamic tiling.
No, of course not. Of course not. And that's what that's what people, when they say, hey, GNOME has tiling or KDE has tiling. It's all about the workspaces anyway with tiling. As long as they don't have independent workspaces per monitor, it's not really a tiling window manager. Like it's never going to work right. Just because your windows snap into place, that didn't make it a tiling window manager. At least not the way people that use tiling window managers think about it.
Okay, need to mute the phone here.
All right, it looks like the YouTube chat says everybody's audio is okay. They can hear everybody. All right. It's always a challenge getting the audio straight here. And I hope everything is good as far as the internet here at the office here. I have noticed the internet, the connection is strong, but sometimes I do lose service here. It's more than at my house, actually. In the last month being here, I've had 3 or 4 instances where I lost internet for, half an hour or whatever.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Who manages the network there?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I have no idea. It's not me, so.
Okay, so first of all, since we're at the very start of the stream, I have to tell you guys something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't personally hate the distribution, but for the duration of this entire stream, the community has voted that I'm supposed to hate Arch Linux the entire stream. So every time you guys say something positive about Arch, I have to say something negative about Arch.
Well, that's cool.
Why is that?
Because the community over at distro.tube.com has voted so.
Oh, yeah. Okay. we are leaving the Arch finally.
Yep.
Yeah, but
just remember, guys, every stream that I'm going to join for these patron chats, I will post a poll there, and that will set my entire topic of discussion for the duration of the entire chat.
Yep, but everybody hates on Arch, so it's not like the Arch guys won't care.
Yeah.
I think the Arch guys will care. Have you ever spoken to them on the forums and told them that Arch sucks?
Not lately. I've avoided the forums for Arch and most other distributions. I haven't been on a forum in probably 6, 7, 8 years. I don't know. It's been a long time. Back in the day when I did hang out on the Arch forums and the Debian forums and places like that, they don't have the nicest people that hang out in those places.
Exactly.
Right. So, yeah, these days...
Back in time.
Yeah, if I have a support kind of a issue, I'm just going to research it myself. I'm not going to ask anybody a question because I just don't want to deal with it. It's like, I'll figure it out. Don't worry about it.
One part of doing the stuff in the forum is that you have to spend more time explaining the situation to the people. And by then, you usually find the solution yourself.
Yeah, and I can understand, especially like the moderators of a forum, a support forum. People don't put enough information in their support requests sometimes.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Like, hey, I installed Arch, I rebooted, I got a black screen. What's the problem? Well, I don't know. What steps how did you install it? Did you actually follow the installation guide step by step,
I installed Arch once by literally DDing the installation ISO directly to the hard drive.
Yeah.
And just like, that's totally one way to install Arch, by the way.
Don't use DD. I do so much with command line tools, but I never use DD to burn or format a drive or anything because I've got multiple drives, and it's just so easy to fat finger the keyboard. And you thought it was SDA, but it was SDB or whatever it happened to be.
I did it once, and it cost me 3 months of software development.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I've learned that the hard way a couple times. Thankfully, I happen to have this wonderful thing called backups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, these days, it's a good idea. But back in the day, when you're new to Linux and you haven't even thought about backups yet. You're just trying to get the thing installed, right?
Yeah, of course.
We had somebody in the chat here was asking about he uses Arch and he's new to window managers. Which one should he start with?
GNOME.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
We're being serious here. Okay, Kwin, because you want your wobbly windows.
Yeah.
That's better than GNOME, but if he's talking about a standalone window manager, not part of a desktop environment.
But you can use Kwin by itself.
Yeah, but it's going to have some KDE dependencies. It's still got to pull in.
Yeah,
what's wrong with that?
Is kind of nice though.
Disk-based is still relatively cheap. It's a little bit more expensive these days because of Chia mining, but it's going to go back down. Just watch.
Yeah, but if he was wanting a floating window manager, I'd tell him to take a look at OpenBox. If that looks a little too intimidating, because OpenBox is a black screen when you boot in, it's very, very, very minimal. IceWM. It's really nice out of the box. It's got a panel and a menu and everything for you.
Okay, well, my recommendation then, if we actually want to be serious here and discuss window managers, you mentioned it yourself in the past, Derek, but you mentioned Awesome Window Manager is a great place to start.
It is.
But I'm going to change that, and I'm going to tell you that if you're going to be starting with window managers, you want to start with a fully feature-rich window manager to start with, like Awesome. But after a few months, and after you figure out what you can do with Awesome, install DWM and learn what you really need out of your window manager.
Okay.
Because DWM comes with nothing by default.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes you appreciate every other window manager because it's missing so much stuff. Like, doesn't DWM, I know I've had to patch mine, but I don't think you can actually rotate the order of the windows in the stack. That's like every other window manager known to man does that. That's like, why can't we rotate the order of the windows?
Peter, the answer to your problem with the weather applet in GNOME is to update your Node.js server, because we totally need our desktop environments written in JavaScript.
Yes, we do. And our web browsers.
Yep. Speaking of which, for web browsers, I've been jumping around recently, and I actually discovered that Epiphany, the GNOME web browser, actually really respects GTK themes compared to like all the other ones.
Well, that's because it's part of the GNOME suite of applications.
I know. And it's actually surprisingly pretty minimal.
It's hideous. Nobody uses Epiphany.
I'm using it right now.
Well, you're just trying to be a contrarian.
Of course.
Yeah.
You guys got to know that I'm the guy that hates myself enough to install Gentoo through stage 1 just to talk to you guys today. It took me it didn't take me nearly as long as last time where it took me 18 hours to install it because I actually knew what I was getting myself into. But it still took me from 10 p.m. last night.
Yeah, people have been telling me I need to do a video on Gentoo because I haven't done one in a couple of years. I may do a Gentoo install. I don't know. Later this evening or tomorrow. I'll do a stage 3 install probably. It'll be fun.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, it's like an Arch install. It's just you have to go take a 2-hour break between each command that you enter.
Pretty much.
Like, okay, now I'll go grab lunch, come back, enter one more command. Now I'll go to the gym, work out, come back.
When I install Gentoo, I actually sit there and cook dinner. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna chop some carrots, come over here, enter command, then go fry up my beef for like the beef stew that I'm making. Which, by the way, it is still simmering on the pot, and it smells amazing in here right now.
Yeah, I was watching one of the other YouTubers install Gentoo the other day. I think it was
it LinuxCast?
The Matt at the LinuxCast.
Yes.
He was running through a Gentoo install.
I was trolling of that entire chat. It was great.
Well, I just caught part of it because I knew he was in for a long evening, because I caught him at the very beginning when he was trying to download the tarball, and he couldn't figure out how to do that at the command line. I mean, the Gentoo wiki tells you how to with wget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then the URL is such a long URL, and it's got numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for anybody watching this right now, if you're going to be installing Gentoo, install it through a live CD. I prefer installing Gentoo using the Pop! OS live CD.
Yeah. Or what you could do is you could Lynx the browser. I've talked about the Lynx browser in the terminal. Just use the Lynx browser, go to gentoo.org, and go to the downloads page, and that's where you get that tarball, and it'll put it right in that directory. It'll download it to the directory you're already in at the command line.
Or you can buy a Chromebook. That's the easiest way.
Alternatively, just install Windows.
Yeah. Windows 11, of course. Yeah.
But don't install Arch. That's a terrible operating system.
Yeah.
But that really does kind of weed out some of the noobs from the Gentoo install. Is just getting the tarball, because at the command line, how do you do that? So many people don't know how to use any of those browsers like Lynx or the other Lynx or eLynx.
My very first time installing Gentoo, I had no problems right up until I decided I was going to try to compile a kernel myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was doing this through the Gentoo live CD, which is very interesting to install through, because like the Gentoo live CD, you don't even have it. The only text editor you have is Nano, which we all love. We all love and enjoy Nano.
Oh,
But,
I hate
this
that.
keyboard has an absence of arrow keys on it. So that was fun, because
because up front you can't even like emerge Vim or anything. You have to use Nano.
in fact, portage isn't even on the installation media.
Yeah, because that's a later stage, right? That's not one of the first steps, right?
So don't use the Gentoo install media.
No, you can do that. You can do that. I think it's all 24, 25, and 26 and 27 for simulation of the arrow key. Now recording.
Ah, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, there's some ASCII code for.
Okay, that would make sense.
I wouldn't know. I use the Vim keybinds because I'm not a savage. Although I'm using a Dvorak keyboard, which does make me a savage.
Well, when you say Vim is not there, VI is there though, right? It's got to be.
Yeah,
I don't think so, actually.
We're gonna have to file a bug report with the Gentoo guys if Nano's the only editor.
It doesn't have HTOP either. So
Yeah, but you don't need that. Not for the installation.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
It says Nano, Emacs, and Vim is advanced.
Why does it have Emacs?
It doesn't. Surely.
Yeah, I thought Emacs. Why?
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't have Emacs installed either on the live CD.
It says so. It says we have Emacs and Nano and we.
I wonder if I've got so many VMs. I'm just going to verify that right now. If I happen to have one, I just boot into it. Let's see. Hopefully this doesn't cause the stream to buffer, because I'm going to have to use some CPU, obviously.
Try the Gentoo today. Seems to be interesting.
I'm just going to quickly get to the command line and just actually type Emacs here in the Gentoo live environment.
Is it actually there?
It's the Emacs, terminal Emacs
Wow.
-NW for ncurses. Yep. Of course, it's not going to have evil mode, so I got to remember how to exit. Control X, Control C. Okay. Let me kill this VM.
That's funny.
My goodness. We're firing up an operating system inside of our operating system, but we still don't have a good text editor.
Yeah, I can't believe that's there.
I know,
That's
right?
weird. I would have never. I didn't check Vim. I should have, or VI. But if Emacs is there, I guess everything's good.
I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Rick Roll says, I have billions of VMs of Linux distros. Yeah, I probably, when I opened Vert Manager just then, I had about 20, 25 VMs of various distros.
I typically have about 3 or 4. But
Yeah.
inside those VMs, I also have other VMs. Inside those VMs, I have other VMs because I'm a savage.
Now, not all of them are unique. Like, I have probably 4 or 5 different Ubuntu VMs. I have 4 or 5 different Arch VMs because I do so much with those. Like, if I want to experiment with something and it's a dangerous thing, I'm not going to do it on my system, right? I'm going to go grab one of those VMs. And if I completely hose one of those VMs, well, I've got 4 other Arch VMs.
The FOSS community is not lacking in video games. I just bought Valheim and I'm really enjoying it.
Speaking of VMs, the people that try things like Arch install, well, not necessarily Arch install is pretty quick, but a Gentoo install, or guys that play with Linux from scratch, things like that. If you're doing that in a VM, I don't know if many people know this. You can actually save the state of the VM. So when you're tired of playing with it, save the state, and then if you want to, clone that VM. So you've got now 2 VMs exactly at the same spot. So if you mess up going forward, you still had the backup from the last time. What's up, Ben?
Sorry, I was muted. My throat
that's
is really dang irritated today.
No.
It has been the past 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like something going around over here.
No.
It's just like, ugh. My sister
probably-
was sick the past couple days, and now I think it's coming on to me.
Probably the weather change.
I don't know what it is, Tarek, but yeah, I'm still on that DWM config that you helped me with at the moment, and I am in love with it.
Oh, cool. I'm glad we got that working for you.
Yes.
It really
yes,
is like the 5th best window manager.
Yes, agreed. And I also downloaded Mesh. He's awesome, but I'm loving his EWM. I'm so happy we got that working finally.
Yeah, awesome is pretty much DWM. It's just got a lot of extra stuff to it that you could use or not use. It depends on how you want to configure it.
Yes, so I'm happy with how I got this going now. So.
I guess the big difference with Awesome is the fact that you can configure it in Lua instead of C.
And by the way, on this laptop, I actually upgraded the SSD to a 500 gig from 128. So that's very...
That's a big upgrade. That's nice.
Yes,
The computer that I'm talking to you guys on right now has a 32 gig SSD in it.
Oh, God.
But then again, I'm out my home directory on an NFS share, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's Linux, though. I mean, most Linux distros, they only need about 12, 15 gigs of space anyway.
Yeah, that is true.
As long as you're not installing Steam, you're probably good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we delayed talking about Windows 11 until Big Pod got here. So,
Hey,
now that
Big
he's-
Pod.
Fun fact about Windows, by the way, their window manager is DWM.
no, it's not.
Yes, it is. It's called DWM.exe.
That's not the suckless DWM.
Oh, okay.
Okay. You're going to confuse people out there. They're going to actually really think that. Yeah, it's not written in under 2,000 lines of code either.
Yeah, definitely not.
Probably
What's up,
not.
Big Pod?
I'm doing fine.
Big Pod, I want to apologize to you first of all because I briefly attempted Ubuntu Mate last night, but I used it to install Gentoo instead.
Hey, Big Pod, you weren't here a few minutes ago where we all discovered something we didn't know. I pulled up a VM of a Gentoo live install at the command line, and if you type Emacs is there.
Really?
Yeah.
Somebody needs to clean that live install.
Yeah, I had never even thought that. That's the first distribution I've ever seen that Emacs was actually there.
Wow.
I saw that in the Red Hat like for 10 years ago. I remember the Emacs was there, like the default installation of Red Hat, like very old version.
Yeah,
Yes,
Emacs used to ship with Red Hat.
Yeah, I mean it's not there anymore, but
Yeah.
I said,
No,
like,
it's an option in Anaconda.
Yeah,
You can still pick it up, although it comes with Vim because you can't have Emacs without Vim in your life.
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard to have a Unix-like operating system that doesn't have Vim installed on it anyway. I mean, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Well, you can, but you can't.
If you're Ubuntu, you can not have Vim installed.
You can install Gentoo and set a use flag for -nano, -Emacs, -Vim, and then figure out how you're going to edit your text files the hard way.
Oh, Lord.
Wow.
With Ed.
Well,
You'd have to use
can
Ed.
Install something else, something
Well,
more
I-
useful.
I mean, I guess you could.
You know, he says that, you know, without Nano or Vim or Emacs, you know, how are you going to edit your text? Obviously, with grep sed awk. I mean, you just use the shell utilities.
Yes, exactly.
Obviously, with echo pipe, and that's it.
Yeah, that's all you need.
How I do it.
You could get it done. You wouldn't like it, but you could get it done.
Just remember, you should always cat in the grep.
Yeah.
You should always cat in the grep.
Well, you know, people like to make fun of people that cat into grep. The other day, this past month, I made the awk video and I made the sed video. And I purposely catted a couple of times into sed. And literally, I didn't get a single comment on that video. Hey, you catted into sed. And I was like, man, I set you guys up for it. And nobody went after me.
That is not surprising.
Uh,
I've been watching all the videos through MPV, so I actually can't comment.
Yeah.
I'm
So
not
apparently,
surprised nobody said anything.
you can't cat into grep, but it's okay to cat into sed. That's people's thinking, I guess.
Well,
It's even better to cat into grep into awk as well.
Yeah.
I've seen that happen once.
Bahush.
That is far from surprising to me.
So Big Pod, have you tried out Windows 11 yet?
no, I'm still waiting for the official ISOs. I'm not gonna install those leaked
Right.
ISOs because first of all they're old. Second of all, who knows who handled them and who knows what's on them really. So
Right.
I am a bit more careful about it. But
That's
yeah,
why you install your GNU Geeks operating system and enable KVM and just run it in a virtual machine.
no.
Yeah,
I'm gonna wait for official technical release. Then I'm gonna go and put it on my laptop.
Oh,
And
I'm
update on the
gonna
Geeks,
go
actually?
the crazy way.
he does make a good point about the people that go and find these third-party images. You know, that who knows what people are putting in them. You know, that's one of the great things. You know, once you switch from Windows to Linux, you never go scour the internet and go grab a random exe and run it. You know, the way I used to.
Well, people still do that. People still do that.
Well, they have the winget command line
Yes.
package manager now.
But even on Linux, people still do that because
I totally install random debs and RPMs that I find all the time.
yeah.
That's not a good idea.
It's an amazing idea. You'll be finding all the random stuff you can find.
Well, there are packages that are not in your repositories, and what are you gonna do with that? Or there are packages that are in Arch user repository. Those
Don't be
are
talking about the AUR here. The AUR is a terrible service. You should never use it.
Yes, those are basically random packages that you pull down through a command. Nothing more.
Yeah.
That's the reality behind of it, and even more, you actually run a set of scripts to do that. So what else you do? You might get another set of packages that are basically viruses without even knowing, because what you do, you use a AUR helper. And
Big Pod,
you're
Big Pod.
basically
The Arch guys tell you don't use the AUR though.
Yes. Why?
That's
Because
to cover their butts. That's what
they are
that's
counter, but
No, they tell you to not use the AUR because it's like they don't even understand what the AUR is.
They
No,
understand what AUR is.
they understand it, but they can't moderate it, and because of that, they can't endorse
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
they give you the ability, but that's it. It's
But
in a way, it's like PPAs.
you should always, if you're installing something from the AUR that you're not sure about anyway, I mean, read the package build and see
Yeah.
where it's grabbing the source code from,
Yeah,
and and actually go to that GitHub or GitLab and see, hey, is this legit or is?
Why don't you just make a video just like breaking down like the contents of a package build file? I mean, not that you should, because that's another video on Arch, and we can't make any more videos on Arch because enough of them saturate YouTube already.
well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, would it be an interesting video?
For like two people.
Right? Yeah, let's break down everything that's going on with this, package build, this installation script, and then which package should we go grab from the AUR to tear it down?
An alternative to the AUR is Nix. I've been using Nix on Debian 10, and it's a smoother install. It's scriptable and installs binaries, and you can reproduce it afterwards. Its selection's just as good or better than the AUR as well. And I've been using Nix. I developed on Debian 10, and then I copied my stuff over to Manjaro and ran it there. I copied it to KDE Neon on my laptop and copied it over there. I have 250 packages installed that way. It installed about 15 minutes, and it works really well. So if I run an Arch system, I'd install everything from Pacman I could, because then you get your desktop and your systemd and glibc and all that stuff. And if it doesn't install there, I'd try Nix. And if it doesn't install the Nix, I'd go to the AUR. There's still a few things in the AUR that aren't in Nix. I tried VidCutter, and that wasn't in Nix, but it was in the AUR. So between those, you can get pretty well whatever you want.
Yeah, I've played a little bit, not recently, but in the past with both Nix and Geeks. Running the package manager on Arch, and they work. The only thing is, there's not a package in either Nix or Geeks that I can't get in the Arch repos or in the Arch user repository. So it's like I've got these extra package managers that I don't necessarily need on Arch. But on other distributions, like Solus is a good example. The Solus repositories are horrible, and then that might be a good idea to have a backup plan.
My Debian 10, I have a Terminator, and it's has a problem with plugins. I installed Nix, and that solved that problem. And so there's several things. Genie was the same way, problem with plugins. Installed a new Genie, and it did it. So if you've got something like Ubuntu and you want to install 4 or 5 new packages, you don't need everything to be new. Nix can be a nice tool for that too.
Honestly,
I use portage and overlays.
Yeah.
I use snaps, and I have basically what I need. Honestly, I feel a lot safer using snaps, and actually talking to some people who aren't super into technical aspects of Linux. But they use Linux because either of their job or because they're sysadmins, and they just decide to use Linux everywhere because there is no point in switching between Windows and Linux. They all use snaps, and they all said that they feel a lot safer because of the containerization.
Oh, you're going to get a lot of hate anytime you bring up snaps, flatpaks, or app images. I get hate.
I know.
I get hate from all 3 camps because I use all 3. Every time I do something on a video, like the Ubuntu video I did the other day, where I from noob to power user with Ubuntu, and I installed the Starship prompt using snaps because Starship is not in the Debian repository. You have to, or the Ubuntu repositories. So I did a sudo snap install Starship, and people were like, man, you shouldn't tell people to install a snap. Snaps are evil. Snaps are bad. How else would I get it? I would have to tell them to go and install it with cargo. Nobody wants to. I'm not going to tell a new user to go do that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's in Nix.
Yeah. Well, it's because the Ubuntu repository, the Debian stable repositories, this older. Starship hasn't been packaged that long.
Well, alternatively,
Ubuntu
you
is
can.
using Debian testing, not stable, but okay.
Well, the long-term release.
An
Right.
alternative is that the Starship Prompts website has a shell script you can download and execute. Because you should totally download random shell scripts off the internet and execute them.
Well, you could read the script first.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to read it.
Well, I'm gonna say like this: many people are against the snaps because they're containerized. I'm gonna say like this: people who are against containerization are basically against something that has been decided in the industry that is way forward. And
My personal favorite.
they're gonna drown. Simply speaking, they're gonna drown in the ocean that is IT.
Okay.
Yeah.
My personal favorite is that I know so many people that hate the containerized applications like snaps, flatpaks, and app images, but they love Docker.
Yeah, that's fun one. That's fun one. It's fun one.
They're like, do you not understand what the difference between Docker and a Flatpak is?
Yeah, and we've got somebody in the chat.
Okay.
Jacob in the chat is saying snap packs are as unsafe as packages from the AUR. Every package format is equally unsafe. You have to trust the person that packaged it.
Well, yeah.
Ultimately, if you don't know who packaged it,
Not me. I'm compiling everything.
It is a bit safer because there are some safeguards with AppArmor that actually, if it is properly configured, which on Ubuntu it is, because logically, if it is properly configured, there are safeguards that guard your main namespace against or main system. So where you run at something that is in kernel speak called namespace is guarded from the container that are around it when talking about snaps.
Yeah, the snaps have a little bit of extra security, I guess, because of the container. The program has limited ability to do things outside that container.
Yes, and many of the abilities are actually not enabled by default. At least if the snap guys from Canonical. So this is another problem people have, is that only Canonical people and certain community members have control over what is auto-enabled. So, for example, classic snaps, like snaps that have full ability to do whatever they want. For those, they don't allow that by default, and actually, it's quite a bit of a process to get that, including, I believe, even something of a who are you. So you need to tell a bit about yourself, so that they can check on you if you're a real person. And there is for some other things like home, to access to home directory, you need to actually tell why you have that, why you need that, and so on and so on and so on. And there are some that are even not even enabled by default, or even many times not enabled by them, like controller support. And well, that is one of the benefits for snaps, even though a lot of people will go, how that isn't freedom, that isn't yada. Everything can be enabled by hand, even if it isn't enabled by the canonical people.
Yeah.
But
one of
there is someone who has certain level of authority and has less amount of wish to hurt someone and there is not just one person to say that, but a whole set of people. So even if, let's say, you will upload a snap and you want, let's say, home access, you would have to go through the Snapcraft forum, and there would basically be a voting period by the Snapcrafters community, which is basically a chosen set of community members and the canonical people from Snap team and security team, I believe, and there would have to be quorum of members. So you would have to have more than half of the people say yes to your request for it to actually go through and be enabled. Which
and that's because they don't want people to use the classic confinement.
they don't, if it's not absolutely necessary.
Right.
Because and everything else as well. So if it's like access to home directory,
right.
Many applications don't need that. So why give an application? And if you do, state your reason, and if it's reason enough, we're gonna allow you. And that is actually pretty good because it gives somebody else as well look into why that would need, and somebody else decide, not just because otherwise it would be Wild West and nobody will have, it would be just like normal package because everybody would enable classic.
Now I do want to quickly address something, a misconception that I keep seeing people have is that snaps are proprietary. The snap build tool is proprietary. The snap how you create
no everything but the backend server.
But the backend server. Okay.
Technically speaking, if you have enough knowledge, you can make a snap based on anything on Ubuntu, which is what.
Well, my point was the snaps themselves. The snaps themselves, after they're packaged, they can be open source or proprietary, depending on.
You can open up a snap and already you can do everything you want. It's a giant misconception.
That all snaps are proprietary. That's not true. So I just wanted to put that out there.
That was around for a long time and then was even more propagated by Mint team, Linux Mint. They basically don't understand how snaps work. So they said that it cannot be audited. Of course they can be. They are squash-fast file system. You can squash-fast it like that.
Yeah, and it should be obvious that snaps are not all proprietary because you can install Firefox from a snap, and that's licensed under the Mozilla public license. GIMP is GPL, and GIMP is available as a snap. Yeah. So you got plenty of free software that's snapped.
There are tons of software. The only thing is that the backend has the guys.
Yeah, the backend server. Yeah.
My only complaint about snaps in general is that Ubuntu is forcing me to use snaps by integrating snaps into the app repository.
That is a bit more of a questionable thing, but at the same time, it is for a certain package a good thing. For example, Chromium.
I understand why they did it. I just would rather just type in apt install Chromium and then it just say, hey, this isn't available here anymore. You can install this through Snap, but I'm not going to do it for you.
Well, it is meant for, especially for those who are updating systems, because if you are going from, let's say, if you went from 14.04 to 16.04 or 16.04, 18.04, and that happened. I don't remember in which version it happened. It was 18.04 to 20.04. I don't know which one happened. The switch happened. If let's say update happens and you don't have Chromium, you won't get an update. So what happens? You have an insecure browser for the rest of your usage period. People don't read the logs, the update logs. People don't read that.
And it's a simple solution too. It's people like you, Josh, you know how to disable snaps, and then you know how to go get the Chromium app image.
Yeah,
problem solved. Right. Yeah. That's so. They're not forcing you to do anything, right?
Chromium's also available in Nix. If you use Nix in your system, you can eliminate snaps to a large degree if you wanted to.
You can also install Chromium through Portage, and it takes 6 hours.
Yes.
There is a bin file for it.
Binary.
My question here, why would you do that? I mean, there's a Snap package, it's open source, you can monitor everything.
Because on Gentoo, I'm running OpenRC, and Snap
doesn't have systemd.
Still requires systemd, because systemd is used by Arch Linux, which is the devil.
App image.
Oh, yeah.
App image.
Yeah, I'm convinced.
First of all, for Josh with the whole Chromium Snap and all that, we should all first of all remember that main target audience for Ubuntu isn't us techies.
Right,
It's
exactly.
companies, it's normal people. So
When I see a nerd,
choices they have to be made for those people that might not be liked for us. But then again, we as techies, as nerds, as geeks, or however you want to call us, we know how to
we know how to get
out
around
of those
everything.
and around of that.
Mhm.
That should be remembered. Hell, I can easily get around Snap auto updates. If I have like an hour, I can disable Snap auto updates in code. I can even make my own repository if I want and change the source code of the snapd to target my repository.
Man,
With a couple of hours of time.
You know, Josh could actually just remove all the Ubuntu mirrors, point everything to Debian Sid.
Yeah, Josh,
I've done that before.
Yeah, that's my question. Why in the first place Ubuntu when there's Debian Sid? I mean, why?
That is a good question because Debian Sid is an unstable operating system. You're not supposed to use it.
Don't joke with you.
There are reasons why using Ubuntu is better than Debian. First of all, Debian is a bare bones distro, where it means there are no security stuff actually set. Where in Ubuntu there like AppArmor, things like that are already set up for you. So that is one of the considerations why.
I don't even think you have a firewall installed on Debian by default. I think you have to install it.
If you're talking about
you're
talking about it like a base server install, yeah, Ubuntu has all that like out of the box. Like you don't have to do anything.
If you just wanna set it and forget, Ubuntu is better. If you actually wanna take if you already have everything set up, if you already wanna set everything up to your standard or how you want it, Debian is better for you. But if you want just to install server, load up the applications, maybe a couple of commands to enable the application to go through firewall, Ubuntu is a lot better for you.
I was actually surprised on that.
For desktop, Ubuntu is especially better for you because how many people will want to go and set up AppArmor and all the security stuff that are needed for Ubuntu, for Debian to be at the level that is Ubuntu.
Well, I tell you what.
Let's not forget that a lot of Debian is kept up by Ubuntu contributors. Let's not forget that.
When you install Ubuntu server and you see how much work you save by not having to do all of that, it's like try to imagine setting up an Arch web server. Oh my goodness. Like there's so much stuff you'd have to do. Like Ubuntu is like a 15-minute install and everything just magically works.
What about NixOS as a server? It's lightweight and customizable. I looked at it the other day. It has support for ZFS file system, and it's scriptable and it's usable.
Well, it's a bit.
You know what also has support for all that stuff? Gentoo.
No.
Yeah, but not.
I would never recommend Gentoo as a
not on a server.
Why? I run Gentoo on a server. It's not a problem.
No.
It's only one server.
But you do not have a data center with 50 servers.
No, I just have 8 hard drives running in a RAID 12 array.
As a server, when we talk about servers, we should talk about. Should keep in mind that we should talk about data centers with 20, 50 servers. That's what companies are. People who actually care about servers run.
And they're not compiling. They want to be compiling all the time.
Those won't be updating all the time, so Arch can go away. Those will use either Red Hat, CentOS, Debian, or Ubuntu.
Well, not CentOS anymore.
Well,
why CentOS is still around?
Technically, yes, because that's a bit more of a complex thing that people present.
Well, IBM decided that CentOS didn't deserve to live.
CentOS is still around, and CentOS is still just as fine as it is. It is just that people are just more panicking than anything else.
Yeah.
But they have other distros that have picked up the slack that CentOS has left behind, and they're those distros. But reality
it's not people panicking. Many of the servers, like the commercial servers for the hosting, it's depend on the Cloud Linux, which is based on the CentOS and the CentOS itself. So
Well,
For example,
Yeah.
for me, I have like more than 100 servers that I just left them alone. I cannot switch all the OSs, at once. So it's just a problem here.
Well,
There is no stable branch of CentOS that you can.
Do any of you guys that work in IT or system administration, do any of you guys worry about the direction of Red Hat now that IBM has bought them? You worried about, like when you see them get rid of something like CentOS, which has been around forever and it's kind of been a staple in servers. You kind of wonder that maybe the IBM guys aren't necessarily pushing Red Hat in the right direction.
I can tell you, I saw the same story happen with the Solaris, and with the same OS. It just went down and up and down and up and down and up, and it's not just a fork of CentOS right now. So I believe that we're gonna have the same thing happen to the Red Hat. It's not gonna last so long as same as Solaris. I mean, it was in the Spark, it was in the x86, it was in everywhere. I was really using the Solaris, and it's gone now.
Well, Solaris
is gone because they were bought by a
I don't miss
horrible
Solaris.
Let's be real. They were bought by Oracle. That's the problem enough.
Yeah. Anything that Oracle touches usually dies quickly.
And IBM have a long tail of discontinuing major products in the product line. They just buy companies, they just mix them up, they just they brought the soft layer as a cloud provider, and they just messed up everything with the soft layer, then they moved to the IBM cloud. So it just have a long tail in this.
There's really 4 companies that you don't want to be purchased by because you're probably going to be out of a job within a year, and that's Oracle, Sun Microsystems,
Suzy, please.
Suzy, and then I was going to add Microsoft in there because Microsoft tends to buy things and then...
I was expecting you to say Mozilla.
No.
Let's be real here. Reality is when companies are bought and sold, the companies products get part of different divisions. That's all happening all the time, and many times we don't even see that happening because it's happening to smaller products.
I think that is easy. Like what happens to the WHM now? Like all the WHM is gone because it's developed by for CentOS, and there is no CentOS anymore, and WHM is one of the biggest hosting panel in the market, and the parallel Plesk is just the crap. You cannot trust the parallel Plesk for anything. It just breaks, that's gone.
Well, I generally don't use those panels because I'm
talking about the general market. Yeah, I will use the open license with myself everywhere. So
I had problem with every panel I tried, so I'm
talking about the whole market, HostGator, GoDaddy, any hosting company that use WHM, and some part the parallel. As I said, the parallel is so fragile and it just breaks so fast. For me, I use the open light speed or other web servers when I need to power something without any panel. I don't need a panel. But in a general hosting environment, there is no CentOS, there is no that WHM, and the WHM guys is really struggling at the moment, and it's this big share of the market. So when you say it's happened, it's happened, but it's have a huge impact in the market. So,
but let's remember something else. That things change all the time. That
it's not a change. When you want
this could have happened even if Red Hat wasn't bought by IBM. Reality is distros and reality's products, distros, projects will disappear. New will appear. That will always happen.
Like the MySQL. Then we had the MariaDB.
Okay.
We had the MariaDB. It's a big community.
Those who use MySQL and MariaDB, I generally dislike those applications because unless they have something else to choice, I do not want to use that slow ass backend.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to.
That's why I use anything else.
You can't get away from MySQL.
A lot of applications now support PostgreSQL.
Postgres, yeah.
Yeah, if they support that, I rather use that.
let me give you an example. I mean, most of you maybe disagree with that, but when I develop a Django app, I use MySQL or MariaDB, not Postgres. And the reason why is that there are many complications of setting up a Postgres on a production environment. And when you want to have a real good production ready Postgres, you have to pay for it.
Well, if you want to have a real good production grade any kind of database, it's better to pay for it.
Oh.
That's
If
the
you
reality
want a
situation.
really good production database, Microsoft has this wonderful product called Access. You should totally use that.
No.
Wow.
If you wanna, if you're in a corporate environment, if you wanna have a proper database, you should probably use. If you're gonna go that way, if you're gonna touch Microsoft product, MS SQL is actually a really good database, but it is expensive, and that's the real situation. If you are in a high throughput environment, you're gonna wanna fork money for either it's gonna be MS SQL or it's gonna be something like Oracle SQL. Well, no, I don't know what it's actually called. It's called Oracle SQL.
think
Other
so, yeah.
paid database, because the reality is
I think the Oracle is a MySQL, so.
they have two products. It's
Oh.
MySQL. That's the free open source
No, that
version.
the one
Then,
is the same.
then they have another product which I believe they had before they bought MySQL, which is Oracle SQL. I think it's called. It's their like foremost product with the cloud and all that. But reality is you're probably gonna wanna buy a production grade database environment.
It's kind of like how corporations like paying for Windows, where the rest of us get it for free.
But still, the
you know?
free version of the MySQL and MariaDB is
Yeah.
much better than the Postgres. So there are certain limitations on the Postgres, which is really not in the level of
So how is performance MariaDB versus Postgres?
I would go with MariaDB.
Okay.
Personally, when I see like our actual throughput, Postgres does better, no matter how where it is.
I've been looking at Cockroach database, which has a Postgres interface, and don't laugh, it's the same team that developed GIMP, named Cockroach database as well. But that name inside, it's a distributed database, so you have a minimum of 3 nodes, and it's very fast, and it's a single binary, it's open source, and it's professionally done, and I haven't yet used it, but I've been looking at it. And
I'm gonna post the link in the YouTube chat, cockroachlabs.com.
I if I ever gonna do if I ever had a product that I was myself and like all that, I would probably if it was anywhere on the internet, I would probably pay for production grade database at the cloud
You
provider.
almost misleaded me. The first one in the market in terms of speed is MySQL, then Postgres, then MariaDB. So I'm gonna post the chat.
Okay.
Chat. So I was
right.
wondering myself if anything changed, but seems not.
All right. Well, I'm sure we bored everybody to death with the database talk. Sorry about changing the scenes there for those of you watching the YouTube stream.
Yeah, should we go with the lovely topic of Windows 11?
Well, I mean, there's not much to say.
So the only real difference that I've seen with Windows 11, besides like its hardware requirements, which are just another thing entirely, because it's going to kill like half of the internet.
But that's always been.
That.
You guys, you were around when Windows went from XP to Vista, and the hardware requirements jumped up big time. Well, a lot of people that were running XP could never run Vista on the machines. That's normal. I mean, at some point, Microsoft, they're not Linux. They're not trying to make an operating system that'll run on something that's 20 years old, right?
And it isn't even a problem that's not the requirement that we're talking about. We're talking about having a TPM 2.0 specifically, and secure boot.
Yeah, that was really a big move.
Okay, so Secure Boot's been around for a while.
Yeah,
it's the TPM 2.0 that's the problem, because that's basically, you can only get that off of computers that were made in like the last 6 years or something like that.
Can I tell you a secret? on certain systems, TPM 1.2 will work as well. So yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And they're probably going to adjust that requirement anyway if there's enough pushback from it.
Yeah,
But
it's
they
already
may.
done. It's already done. I think they changed it to the TMP 1.2 higher. not
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, there are some there are ways basically. It's not actually on all systems. I believe AMD 1.2 will work, but I believe on Intel, I'm not sure from what I heard. But reality is that both, especially the requirement for secure boot, should be everywhere, not just on Windows, and that should have happened with Windows 10 already, because
Yeah.
reality, UEFI was here long ago, and if you cannot couldn't in the time from then to 10 years ago get a system with UEFI, then well,
So-
yeah.
A general question: anyone use a secure boot and EFI boot here with the Linux? What's the reason?
I rarely do. On my main workstation, I actually don't.
Why Joshua? I mean, what's the reason?
I use it specifically on my laptop, and that's because that's a portable computer, and I take that everywhere with me. Like if I leave here, I've got the laptop with me, and it runs full disk encryption, runs secure boot, and everything. Because like this is a computer that I literally hand to other people and tell them, hey, go have fun. Try to hack my computer, please. I've done that.
I
That's
run
not a good idea.
UEFI because of dual boot. Reality because of dual boot.
Yeah, if you're running Windows anyway, I mean, you've got really no choice.
If you're running dual boot, you can boot in in the legacy mode. But reality is, if you're running dual boot, if you are trying to do legacy, you're calling for trouble, because UEFI is made for multiple operating systems to be run, because it actually does that really well compared to legacy mode. So that's one of the main reasons I run UEFI. And secure boot, why not? Because what's gonna change? There will be just another layers of security that will check the certain components of my system, and that's it.
Right.
Nothing changes, and especially with Linux. Linux has shim for that. It will do the work for me. All I need to, maybe if I update the drivers, I may need to type in a password so that the driver is accepted as actually being loaded by me, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna talk about how the TMP and secure boot works. My main problem is that there are still many open source projects and operating systems which cannot join the buying the certificate from Microsoft or having the secure boot, like Manjaro and many other Arch based OSs, and that's really bothering. So that's why I'm always turning this thing off. So.
Well, I did run a secure boot on Arch, so
I said Arch based, like Manjaro don't have it.
I think you just need to install shim, and I think it was on Manjaro. It was Manjaro or Arc, I don't know which one.
Yeah.
So it is all you to do is set up shim, and that's it. That's why shim exists.
Yeah, for me, I don't really care about the secure boot on this workstation. As far as I'm just not that concerned about it. So I just
Where would I be?
yeah.
Josh, question for you, buddy.
What'd I do?
No, it's just a Gen 2 question.
Oh,
Okay, so my question is, I tried installing it with OpenRC at first because, I don't really care if I use OpenRC or Systemd, but the point is, when I unpacked this OpenRC tarball, I set up my use flags, my make.conf, the whole shebang, and when I cherooted into it and did the emerge world, whatever, for some reason it still tried to pull down Systemd, no matter what the heck I did. I tried doing
Did you set your profile?
My use flags, whatever. I couldn't figure out what the heck was wrong. I was like, okay, this is a bit effed up. So,
Go Systemd.
it sounds to me
trying
like you
to
honestly
figure
set the
out-
wrong profile.
Well,
That's really it.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
tried using just a generic desktop profile because I wanted to pull in XFCE just to get a basic GUI before going to like a window manager or something like that. So, regardless, when I did an emerge AVUND world, it did not recognize that I had minus systemd in my make.conf. So I was like, okay, this is a bit effed up. So I'm like, okay, this is stupid. So I eventually just said, hell with it. I'm going to download the systemd profile, and I just got frustrated. So I don't know what the heck I did wrong. But
Were you trying to
Okay, so-
install anything that had a like a systemd dependency?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Derek.
so when you're trying to install Gentoo without systemd,
Yes.
if you're setting the profile and targeting a profile that is not calling for systemd, it's also generally a good idea to declare minus systemd in your use flags as well.
That's what I did, but it still wanted to target systemd for some screwed up reason.
Well, bug. Report it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's, because I had ICU, Pulse Audio, iOS iPod, Bluetooth, SQLite, FFmpeg, branding, Plymouth, JPEG, and PNG all in my use flags. Now, even without Plymouth, it still, with all those flags, wanted to pull in systemd, and I don't know the heck why. And I didn't have dbus or X inside the line. So I'm pretty sure that there was, I don't know if there was something that was within those flags that was causing systemd to be pulled in, but, I don't know.
I don't think Plymouth has a systemd requirement.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
Bluetooth was causing a circular dependency problem, so I commented that out. But for some reason, it still wanted to pull that down, the systemd. Now, I did see that within the QTD build, which I don't know why that was being pulled down. It wanted to. Now, there was a UDEV thing in there that needed to be pulled in that was causing systemd to be pulled down. So it's like, okay, this is a bit strange.
Do I need to pull back up my Gentoo VM? We did it earlier, Ben, before you got here for
Yeah,
some
that
problems.
might help, Derek, because I don't know what the heck is causing systemd to be pulled in when I install Gentoo, but it should not because I'm trying to use OpenRC. So,
Well, I
You know, the other day,
OpenRC right now is profile 5 for me.
yes, because
Yeah.
I mean I was trying to use Profile 5, which is just a generic desktop, so
Yeah.
there's no reason that should be pulling in systemd.
Were you trying to pull in a desktop environment too?
yeah, that's what I was going to ask next. Actually,
Yes, I was trying to pull in XFCE. That's like my go-to.
Okay, so XFCE does have a systemd requirement to it. That's why. Yeah, that's what it is. So
Because the other day-
when you're doing the base installation of Gentoo, it's actually best to not install a desktop environment until you boot into the actual installed system.
Okay. So
Yeah.
just stick with the generic profile until you get into an installed system.
Yeah.
because I was really surprised at Red Core Linux when I took a look at it the other day. They use OpenRC, but when I did a where is systemd, they also had systemd libraries installed on it. But they use KDE Plasma, so I'm assuming Plasma needed those systemd libraries for some reason.
Yeah,
I'm not sure about that though, because I have
it's because-
Plasma installed on Gentoo right now.
Yeah.
I don't have systemd installed. Have OpenRC.
But the reason why Gentoo pulls in XFCE is because Network Manager defaults to systemd. So when you're pulling it in with no real package set use flags,
Yeah.
XFCE will pull in the Network Manager applet, which calls upon Network Manager, which pulls in systemd because Network Manager will use Resolve D on its backend for the DNS service.
Oh, okay.
Which
So a lot of
leads to the next question: when is Gentoo just going to start doing systemd by default?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Gentoo is
Yeah.
the primary contributor to OpenRC, even though it's been kind of feature complete for a while still. So I don't see them switching for at least another few years. But it would be
Right.
nice if their systemd documentation was better.
Oh yes.
Yes, because it's almost non-existent right
It
now.
is literally non-existent except for one page that goes into everything all at once.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I'm
I
probably
tried
just
doing it
gonna
that way.
keep Network
That's
Manager
fine.
out of my Gentoo install and just use WPA supplicant.
I just use
yeah.
DHCP.
Well, he's doing
I
Wi-Fi.
actually disabled.
Oh.
I actually disabled Network Manager on Ubuntu, and mainly because I have a breach of between VMs and my network, and network manager did basically made internet unusual when using a bridge. So what I did, I just set up net plan, and that was it.
Yeah,
Okay.
Adam in the chat is asking me when I'm going to do a Gen 2 tutorial. I may do a Gen 2 install this week. I was
Yeah,
discussing it.
Do it live.
It's been a while
Do it
since I've
live.
done
Okay.
one.
And
Okay.
Derek,
Don't. If
Hold
you're
on,
not a Gen
hold
2
on, Doc.
expert, don't do a tutorial.
yeah, Derek,
Do
No,
a
I
live
mean,
install.
I'm not going to go deep into it. We're just going to get it installed.
DT, do a live
Because that's
install
really
for
what
our
most
team.
people want when they want a tutorial. They want an installation. They don't care about what happens afterwards.
DT,
Derek,
do a
for
live
the
install.
love of God, please do a GUI this time.
Yeah.
Do the graphical environment? I probably do that this time
Yeah,
because that's where
yeah.
people.
I don't care if it's a window manager or a desktop, just do it.
Oh,
for
we're not doing a
God's
desktop
sake.
environment. It takes too long to compile.
Easy.
I'll do
Do a-
DWM.
Do a
Yeah,
live.
and
Do a
please
live stream.
Don't leave it vanilla DWM.
If I did a live stream, the problem is it would be a long live stream because I need CPU to
No, I know.
live
I'm
stream,
just saying,
but I
don't
also need
leave
CPU to
DWM
build.
unconfigured, is
So
my
you,
point.
yeah.
I would highly recommend for those who love DWM, don't
Yeah.
leave us hanging with the unpatched GUI.
Now we'll install Xorg and then I'll throw some light window manager on it, but
Yeah,
I'm not
like
doing
I-
Plaza.
DWM or
anything
something
I
like
highly
that.
recommend that if you're going to be doing a window manager, don't do Xmonad because Xmonad will take hours to compile.
Haskell,
Hours to
yeah.
compile.
Yeah, I'm not
Yes.
going to do
And
half.
if I recommend
Xmonad.
a GUI, go Firefox bin because it's in the repositories and Firefox takes forever to compile on.
It
I'm
only
not
takes
gonna-
like an hour.
On
I
your
don't think
system.
he wants to sit there for an hour waiting for plain Firefox.
That's what.
Yeah, I'm not going.
That's why
I'm
you
not
skip
gonna,
time in the video.
Guys.
Everybody that does Gen 2 install videos does it anyway.
guys. It's not my first Gen 2 install. I'm not compiling a browser. I'm not compiling LibreOffice. I'm grabbing the binaries.
I would
Right,
agree
so-
with him on that. If
Right,
was
I already
doing
know
a
how this
tutorial,
works.
I would grab the binaries.
Or just install sysapp/fuse and then just use the app images.
I'll be right back. I gotta get
That's
some
probably
ads
what
on
I
this
would do
as well.
for browser and for LibreOffice. Both of them have app images.
I'm actually
It's
not
just
going to lie
grab it.
to you guys. I'm actually using app images as the primary packages on my system for the GUI tools
Mhm.
because it is actually a lot quicker to actually install them when you're trying to install Gen 2 the same day as you're going to be joining the patron chat.
No. But doing a Gen 2 live stream would be tough just because of CPU. Because it takes a lot of CPU to actually do a live stream on YouTube. It also takes a lot of CPU to compile, and they're going to be fighting.
You
each
have
other.
a thread ripper with like 64 threads.
It's
I don't see a
still-
problem with this.
But still, you're going to have to take one from the other. It's like, do you want the stream to be really, really long, or do you want a good stream? You can't have both.
Alternatively, you can spend $2,000 on an NVIDIA card so you can use the NVIC encoder. That way your CPU is not doing all the work for the stream.
Or I could just record it and not do it live.
But
I tell you
it'd
what,
be a tax
I'll
write-off.
record it. I'll record it, and then we'll do a premiere. That feature
Okay.
where it's not really live. I pre-recorded it. We'll pretend it's live though. But I'll cut out the hours of compiling. Actually, it wouldn't be hours on this machine because I'd probably give it, half the CPU, and I could be up and running with something in a couple of hours. And that's with installing the big kernel and a window manager, Xorg, and everything.
Who is fighting Murlocs in World of Warcraft right now?
Well, I think that was Hearthstone.
Oh. What is the point
Yeah,
of using Gen 2 when you're using app images? It's called I installed Gen 2 at 10 p.m. last night, and I wanted to join the patron chat today, but I was installing Gen 2 through stage 1 because I'm a savage.
He's crazy.
Yeah.
And somebody, Joseph in the chat, try to imagine installing KDE in Gen 2. I've done it. And also, the problem with, you don't see a lot of Gen 2 users use a full desktop environment like KDE. And the reason is, KDE, if you install the full desktop and the suite of apps, the updates take forever. Like, seriously, when you update, it will take an hour just to update. All your KDE.
When I said it took 6 hours to compile Chromium, I literally was not kidding. It's
Yeah.
called you run sudo emerge update world and then go to bed.
Yeah, it just you're constantly updating. Your computer is constantly updating.
Is it something you guys do like on your production device, like the Gen 2 on the production?
No, I could never.
I mean-
People often ask me, would I install Gen 2 like on my workstation here? I could never do that. I have too much stuff installed.
That box right there runs 10leej.com. It is currently running Gen 2. You can go to it right now.
You're not using the Gen 2 for production or even for testing.
That is production. That's a website you can access right now. How does that not count as production?
Oh, okay, then God bless you.
Hack my computer, please.
I cannot sit to compile stuff for 6 hours. And
I mean,
that's for me.
I've got over 2,000 packages installed on my machine right now. Can you imagine the updates I get every? I probably have over 100 updates on this
I mean, I'm a software developer. If I want to go with the Gen 2 and install all the package and rip on everything I have, it's going to take, I think, a week for me to update the Gen 2.
Yeah, I mean, my machine would be literally almost updating 24/7.
Well,
I would never get work done.
If I was running Gen 2, I'd probably keep like 1,000 containers running because I would run everything in a container besides actual operating system.
I have 1,056 packages installed through Merge, 17 app images, and 3 flat packs.
Yeah.
And somebody in the chat was asking me, why don't I try Calculate Linux? I've used Calculate Linux in the past. I've installed it plenty of times on physical hardware even. I've actually made some videos before where Calculate Linux was running on my main machine. You guys didn't know about it, but, back in my hopping days. But the Calculate saves you on the install process, but that's not the problem I have with Gen 2 on my main workstation. My problem is all the software that I installed updating. My machine would be updating all the time, compiling all the time. I can't wait on that stuff because I would never get real work done. I could never make a video while compiling because it's going to suck up all my CPU. Couldn't edit video while it's compiling. Yeah.
Gen 2 is making its contribution to global warming, I think.
Yeah.
It certainly reduced my heating bill.
DT, did you ever try the Cube? CubeOS?
CubeOS. I can't remember if
I
haven't. I have installed it. Yes, I have. That's the VM one. That comes with like 4 VMs, basically. Yeah, I got it.
It's labeled as a most secure OS, and I think it was the CubeOS kernel used in the Intel CPU back in time.
Yeah. I never did a video on it. I did install it on one of my extra drives about
Seems that, and it's
3 years ago or so. Yeah.
So once you install the app in its own virtual area, you launch it and you go down to your running taskbar and they're color coded. You don't have to worry about which VM it's in once you've launched it. You can just see it from the color.
I mean, everything is basically put in its own VM. They call it domains, basically.
Yeah,
and they can't interact with each other. Right.
Yeah.
And for security reasons, it's supposed to be more secure because nothing can really access. It can only access its own domain, right? They can't access.
You launch the Firefox it's inside the VM, so nothing gonna harm them from the Firefox. It's kind of a nice thing to do, but it's. I mean, this approach is really new to me. It's kind of like interesting. I mean, you can have a video for that. That's gonna be really nice.
I'm not a fan of cubes.
It's slow. I can tell you
Yeah,
that.
that's what I found.
Resources for the same thing you can really get with
Okay.
containerization.
I will never use CubesOS as a daily driver, but I can understand and appreciate why it exists.
Because of all the virtualization, it's really slow. So I wouldn't use it like on a production machine, like the kind of video editing and stuff I do. It would be horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the same thing like the Cube on highly secure router and modems. It just do the same thing to secure the communication through the router and modems. For internet.
Virtualization is used a lot, and especially in high-end hardware, it's used a lot. But that is a bit different than.
Oh yeah, Derek. By the way, did you know that your camera is currently jumping focus between your face and your microphone?
My camera doesn't autofocus.
It looks like it is.
I turn off autofocus. It's always turned off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Arch updates super fast. Well, wait until you install Fedora, because Fedora did parallel downloads and installations before Arch did.
Yep, yeah. Pro tip though, if you have a camera that does autofocus, turn it off, because otherwise you will be constantly. And you see people on YouTube doing that, where it's constantly trying to refocus every time you move. Like I'm moving my hands around right now, my camera would be freaking out if I had autofocus on.
So a couple months ago, I started looking at RAM disks or in-memory block devices, and I found two uses for it. One is to normally you think of an SSD as a dev SDA or a partition dev SDA1. You can do the same thing in RAM. You can have /dev RAM 0, /dev RAM 1, /dev, and treat them as a block device. So I use it as a good way to learn about things like gparted and things like that, because it's in memory and you can't screw up your system on it. As long as you're using /dev RAM 0, you're home free. And that's a terrific way to learn ZFS, because everything in ZFS is command line, and you can use just about every ZFS command in memory on it. And you can take snapshots. You can see the snapshot in the folder. You can do rollbacks. You can do just about every ZFS command. So if you're on a laptop and you don't have you only got one drive, you can set up several mirrors in your RAM and learn how to use mirroring in ZFS on your laptop. I did that. I created DevRAM 0, DevRAM 1, and mirrored them. And then I disabled DevRAM 0, and you go into the file manager and you can still see all your files there. So, and then I attached DevRAM 2, and you can see them, and detached DevRAM 1, and you can see the files have been copied back over to the DevRAM 2 on it. So you simulate a destroyed device. If you've done that with a full 3.5-inch 6 terabyte drive, it would take multiple hours to resync them, but you're working in small chunks on RAM, so you get it right away, and it's the exact same command. You're using the exact same commands you would be in a real production system. So that's a good thing. And you can use gparted and fdisk and stuff. I played around with them when normally I wouldn't, because I'd be afraid of screwing up my system somehow.
Now, Murray, when you said there's absolutely no way you can destroy your system, about 5 of us were sitting here thinking, challenge accepted, right?
Yeah.
Trust me.
As long as you're using DevRAM 0, DevRAM 1.
Well,
okay, I'll you have to go out of your way to do it.
When I start playing around with like these virtual machines that you guys see me talk about, I actually load them into RAM disks, because if I was to load them onto like my home directory, because that's the only directory that I have that actually has enough room to actually like install a VM on, because like I said, this machine that I'm talking to you on only has a 32 gig SSD, and that's composed entirely of my root directory, because Gentoo. But
so you don't have a swap?
I don't have a swap. So, and when I have to use the RAM disks, because otherwise, then I'm going through a network connection to a hard drive based RAID array. So it makes the VMs literally just crawl. And I don't really use VMs for like production means on my workstation. If I'm booting up a VM, I just want to get in, look at something, and get out. So like what Derek was doing with the Gen 2 install medium earlier, a RAM disk is an excellent opportunity for that.
Yeah.
Because it boots in seconds, you type in your command, and you're done.
Well, the Gen 2 ISO there, though, I mean, that's a very special case, because that's under 200 megs.
Yes,
like
but
that's nothing.
I'm talking about like your Debian Live CD.
Yeah, but once you actually install something, you're going to need a few gigabytes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. The second use I got for it was to create a temp folder using ZFS and Zpool. And so when I do an unpack, or I do configure, make, install, I use that temporary folder, and it's in memory compressed. I get a compression ratio of about 1.8 in RAM on it. So I've got my own /temp folder called /z, and I instead of all the unpacking and testing and stuff I can do there without going out to the SSD to do the stuff. Because 2/3 of the time when you unpack something and do .configure, you throw it away after anyway. So that's worked out pretty well for me too.
Yeah, that's cool. So, you have multiple temp directories. Is that what you're doing there?
No, instead of using /temp for my temporary stuff,
okay.
I have one called /z, and I create it through ZFS. It's equal create /temp, and then it's just a normal folder as far as you're concerned. When you go to File Manager, you just look at the folder, you unzip it to that folder, and away you go. You don't have to use ZFS. You can use ZRAM, which has a built-in compression. If you don't want to use ZFS, I haven't tried it, but I know of it. It's ZRAM with a built-in compression. You can tell it to use LZ4 compression or whatever you want. You can do the same thing another way with ZRAM if you're not into ZFS. So that's good. It saves you, just probably not necessary, but it saves you writing stuff to the SSD all the time.
Okay.
Guys, is Ubuntu supporting ZFS finally, or?
Yeah, Ubuntu. Technically, it's still marked as experimental in the installer, but it's stable. It's fine to use. Yeah, it's fine.
I had a hard time to create an encryption on the ZFS because I was quitting setup.
I use Proxmox with ZFS, and it upgraded to the latest OpenZFS several months ago. And I created a USB ZFS drive, and I ported over to other systems, and it works on the Debian 10. It doesn't work with Ubuntu 2004 because Ubuntu 2004 is not upgraded. They backported some of the newer stuff into.
Oh, so that's the reason.
But it says it won't let you do it. It complains that it was created by a newer version of ZFS, so it can't import it into Ubuntu on it. So that's part of the 5-year cycle for Ubuntu. That's it's obsolescent, or well, behind the times anyway.
Yeah, I never used the ZFS in the Linux. The only time I used that, in the FreeBSD and what was the thing? The FreeNAS. Yeah.
FreeNAS. Yeah.
Yep.
I never used it in the Linux.
That's
it
all I
feels
use.
wrong for me to actually use ZFS on any Linux system. I install it, I enable the DKMS modules, and man, this just feels wrong. It doesn't feel it's not native. It doesn't feel native at all. I like the command syntax and everything. It just doesn't feel right.
Try Proxmox. It's simple to install, simple to use. I use it everywhere, and it's reliable. I have a Debian 11 system that's.
Well, here's the thing, buddy. Besides this server, the server that's inside that cabinet right there runs Red Hat.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you've got a choice, then you can use ZFS. I use Debian 11 ext4 to testing, and so every once in a while I copy my stuff over, run it on that, and then do it. I came back after 3 days, and for some reason it went to a black screen and told me to FSCK, and I had to FSCK 20 times, and I don't know what happened. I don't recall having a power failure or any problems with it, but I never have a problem like that with ZFS in all the years I've been using it. I've never lost any information because of a power failure or something. I read an article where there's a known issue with ext4 and power failures. You can get an empty folder, empty file on it. It's a known bug on it, and you won't get that with ZFS. The worst you can get is you lose a transaction, but your data on your drives will not be corrupted or emptied or anything like that. So that's generally the first reason I use ZFS is for the reliability.
Yeah.
On it.
I still just roll with Extend 4 for everything.
Yeah.
It's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
On Gen 2, I installed ButterFS because snapshots are a wonderful thing to have. But
Yeah,
in
I
all
need to play
reality,
more.
I'm an old crotchety bastard, and I use XFS on the servers with the data that I care about because I actually know XFS.
I need to play with ButterFS more than what I've done in the past. I need to look into it. Another thing we need to look into, both me and Josh, because somebody asked us before the stream started over on Patreon, was we need to look into disk encryption, and
Yes.
because people are looking for good tutorials on that, and I don't know. I typically don't encrypt my drives. I don't know if you play around with that, Josh.
Yeah, I can really help on
Jay,
that.
the guy behind Learn Linux TV, has a really, really long Arch installation video where he does have a segment of setting up full disk encryption with
Yeah, that's totally wrong.
Arch
That's
Linux.
totally wrong. Don't do that.
I mean, yes, that is the wrong way, but it does get you to a booting working system.
Yeah, well, it's totally wrong.
And why did you say it's a really long Arch install? Like you were really emphasizing.
Okay,
this.
so he covers every different way that you can actually install Arch Linux. That's why.
I can tell you, I tried both of them, the Derek one and the other guy. The other guy always went to the darker screen. The DT one always works. So I don't care how long is that. It's totally wrong. I mean, the guy using some freaky steps that is not even in the order to put up the system correctly. So
You just read the wiki.
yes, exactly. That's
Yeah,
it.
just read the documentation,
Someone
boys.
like reading a book for you, and it's just don't care if it's wrong or right or what you have to do.
I most of my encountering with like full disk encryption is like installing one of the Just Works distributions, and
And just ticking the box.
yeah, just check the box and you're good.
I actually did some of my experience with the Arch when I was going to do the encryption on my laptop, and I got pretty good experience there. But I would say that it's really a pain in butt to set up the Arch encrypted setup. There are many things involved on doing that.
Yeah. My problem with the why I don't do disk encryption is because nobody has access to my machines but me anyway. I'm not worried about potentially having somebody steal my machine and then getting the
Well,
data
now
off
that
of it.
now that your production machine is actually in a dedicated office separate from your house, it's probably something that I would like actually investigate a little bit more. Just take a little, just not a whole lot, but a little bit more seriously, because you're not at the office all the time.
No, but there are other people here. It's not 24/7 probably, but they'd have to defeat 2 bolt locks and a security system. And then they would have to grab this 50-pound tower. Like
You're
it's just
talking.
not
You're
like-
talking to a group of Linux nerds. We're paranoid.
They'd have to disconnect everything. There's so many cables. Like,
Wow.
they'd have to spend some time here.
Good point about the Joshua. We are just paranoid, all of us. Guys, remember we talked about the ARM system like about 3 months ago, and here we are. We have the first commercial one, the Apple M1. The performance of the device is almost like twice.
The Apple M1 is actually not the first, because Microsoft actually did push a very
I'm
cheap
not talking about those
segment
experience
of.
with Samsung and Microsoft. They were
Hold
experienced.
on, I'm
One
just saying, Microsoft did it first.
Yeah, no, before the Microsoft.
Apple is the one that does it right, but Microsoft did it
Before
first.
that was Samsung, and then Huawei, and then Microsoft, and then Apple. But the thing is that the performance of this damn thing, the M1, is so huge on top of the i9. Like you can. I think it's in only one subject, the multi-core processing, which the i9 one, the late 16-inch model, can beat the M1. On the other side, M1 is the winner, and
Yes,
it's really nice for me
but-
to see
But
that.
those two devices aren't exactly going head to head. Sorry, but if I would put like together between Macs, different Mac processors, M1, the only challenge that actually is a challenge, correct challenge is Mac Mini, because the only thing that has good cooling, and even that has horrible cooling. Macs, the MacBooks, those things don't have a correct cooling for Intel CPUs. They didn't have them for years. So putting them side by side isn't a comparison.
I don't understand what Apple is doing anyway, because they've changed CPU architecture like 4 times.
Yeah.
In the last 20 years. Like, why do they keep changing? Are they changing for
Okay,
just
so
the sake of change?
When it comes to Apple, their product line is actually very curated. If you go to apple.com and you actually read like how they describe how you're expected to use the machines, they literally expect you to do just that. Like the M1 MacBooks are not intended for like the production worker. It's intended for you to just get on there and browse Facebook.
What do you mean? I'm just having a full production development environment on the M1. What's the problem?
Yes, you can have, but it's not intended for that.
Yeah, it's not the intended use case.
Yeah,
That's what the MacBook Pro is for, or what like the Apple trash can is for.
that's
Or whatever
what
their
Mac Pro, the big box is for, not the
Yeah,
not the
come on.
laptop.
Let's not think about
That
this.
and that and Apple can like.
Debian seed is not stable. So.
Doesn't the M1
Hey,
have...
hey, what does your apt sources list say? Does it say SID or does it say unstable?
Me? No.
Yes, you.
Okay, seed. Yeah.
It says SID. Okay, just wanted to check. Just
check out.
take my recommendation and don't type in experimental there.
No. I never.
Yeah, this by me.
You know, Apple markets to a specific kind of person. They're really focused on more of the people that live all day in the Adobe Cloud suite and things like that. You know, or they live in Starbucks all day. You know, on the Starbucks Wi-Fi.
Yeah, my
Or they
understanding...
expect them to live in the Starbucks Wi-Fi, but they spent all their money on the computer, so they can't afford the Starbucks.
What was that, Murray?
My
Go ahead, Murray.
understanding is that they split it up into regular CPUs and low power, low performance CPUs, so that they can do a lot of work in the background with next to no power usage on it, and it's a significant advantage on it. And because they control the ecosystem, the applications can make use of it. If you did that in a Linux, everybody's different in Linux, so you'd have to propagate.
It'd
the
be very
information
difficult to
everywhere.
do. In fact, we would probably require an entirely new kernel with CPU management.
That's
we
right.
can do that.
Well, then we're gonna require a new kernel because Intel is having big cores and little cores already.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but
Intel
Apple-
and AMD both are doing that now.
Yeah, because
Yeah, but
it's smart. And Apple is not the first that did that. First were ARM itself, the ARM CPUs by default have that. That is what in ARM space is called big little. Big with a small and little with capitalization.
Mm-hmm.
The important to note. And if you have an ARM CPU on your phone, you most likely have that technology for CPUs. So then probably Linux kernel has that ability to manage.
I mean, it makes sense on something like this, because on your phone, you want your phone to last as long as possible on battery. That's the
But it's different on
downfall.
a laptop because you're sucking so much more power once you fire up Safari and then open Netflix in Safari. You know, that battery drain is just going to be massive.
That's why when you're on your laptop, you use your terminal.
I'm charging my M1 once, and then I start developing for around 12 or 30 hours.
Yeah,
Charging. So
yeah.
I'm using like 5 browser opening all over the places. It's dark sometimes, and I have no power issues. And
there's no fan on it either, is there?
yeah, that's the most beautiful thing about this thing is there's no fan. Like before that, I had like a big PC here and 2 laptops, and I just realized my air is just so calm and
Yeah.
Do you know about
noise.
your air that it actually is slower than equal MacBook Pro because of that no fan?
No, there absolutely not. As I said, there are dozens of the videos on the YouTube. I can record one for you, which is showing the maximum performance of the AMD and Intel compared to the M1. And
Well, yes.
I get almost
Cooling
half
is
of
not
the heat as you have on the fan one.
Yes. First of all, let's be clear. The cooling on MacBooks isn't sufficient for Intel CPUs. Let's be clear. But when you go for
What do you
M1
mean? I have double the performance and I don't need the fan. I have half of the.
He was talking about an Intel CPU, not the M1.
CPU. Yeah, Intel CPU does something called thermal throttling on MacBooks because it heats up too much, and for a protection, it's lower its performance. That's if you have too much. If it's too hot, it will lower its performance. It's called thermal throttling, and that happens
Do
every time
something
on
else.
MacBook.
Do something else. Try the M1 compared to any other laptop you have. i9.
Well, the performance won't be 50% of.
The performance at least is 50%.
No,
And the
it will
single
be
core.
when it's,
Yeah, believe me.
properly
Try
cooled.
the
It will
YouTube.
be a lot less.
Try the YouTube.
Try
I
YouTube.
can send you a
Yes.
video. I can send a video for you, which is the unplugged M1 with AMD and Intel both together.
I've seen many videos, and I've seen.
I will
how they do
take
that.
any reviews on YouTube with a bit of a grain of salt because it's always best.
Okay,
to-
how about this?
to
I have an AMD PC here.
It's always best to self-replicate using hardware that
I
you
did it.
actually have access
I
to.
did it.
Well, I will say that like the big tech reviewers on YouTube, almost all of them use Macs, and almost all of them are Mac fanboys. So I wouldn't trust
I know
them.
one that isn't.
right?
I know one that isn't.
I did it.
Who is
I
that?
did it internally on an AMD PC and an Intel i7 laptop,
Yeah.
and the performance of the M1 was twice as both of them. And
Yeah, 'cause-
meantime, I'm not a Mac fanboy. The only thing I'm just trying to say here is that I don't care about the Mac. I care about the ARM going to the level of PC.
Right.
It's really important for me.
You want to see Linux? You want to see Linux on these
Yeah,
ARM
exactly.
devices?
I'm just counting the second that the first Linux actually works on the Mac and just wipe it out. I don't like it. The device is nice. The performance is very good. The fanless thing is very good for
Yeah.
developers like me.
But here's the
Linux.
problem.
Yeah.
When you put Linux on one of those devices, would you still be able to take it to one of the certified Apple repair shops if you needed to?
It's gonna
No.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in the U.S., surprisingly, they can't deny you warranty service for it because that's actually illegal unless they can actually prove to you that installing Linux broke your computer.
Yeah.
That's
but-
actually federal law. A lot of people don't realize that.
I don't know. The first time I had this problem, I rooted my Samsung device, and they said the phone, and they said because the Knox is booted and you rooted the device, we cannot do the guarantee for you.
Yeah, it's actually illegal for them to tell you that. But
Yeah, I did it.
yeah.
Yeah, but Apple is a $1 trillion company. They can do whatever the
Yeah.
hell they want. Although Microsoft now is a $2 trillion company after this past week. They crossed the $2 trillion mark. They're now the richest company in the world.
Yeah.
They're right above Google.
Good job, Microsoft.
So Microsoft and Google, they're competing for world domination.
Yeah.
I'm really happy about that.
I actually want to say like this. I would rather like that those two companies have the numbers than Amazon or Apple or Facebook.
Well, those are the other two. There's $4 trillion companies. You just named all of them.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
And those companies are the only companies that are like.
Well, I would
anything.
agree. I would agree. Out of that group of 4 companies, Facebook is the one that scares the hell out of me because of just what their product is.
When you think about it, Facebook actually isn't really selling you anything.
Yeah.
So,
They're selling you. Is what
yeah,
they're selling.
they are selling you, and that's what
Yeah.
scares me the most about
And,
Facebook
yeah,
is that
yeah.
you can't go to Facebook.com and really buy anything unless you want to buy like advertisements.
And ironically, people would say Google sells you. No, Google sells service produced by your data. A difference, because
Yeah.
Google just uses your data. They don't sell your data. They use your data. Tiny bit more trustworthy than Facebook.
They use your
Straight up
data
sell your
to
data.
serve you ads. So hopefully you buy
Basically,
from their advertisers that
That's
pay Google money.
L
Yeah.
advertisement.
That said, if
Facebook
I
is
absolutely
advertising
had to
for
pick
data.
one of the companies, though, I would honestly pick Amazon because Amazon's goal is to at least get me to buy things on Amazon.
Guys, a question.
Because it's. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm just curious. Which of them read the whole content of the email? Is it the Microsoft or the Google?
The whole content of email. You talking about like their email services, or are you talking about like
if you use
Gmail?
or Microsoft, if you understand.
What-
fine.
Well, Google, I'm sure reads every
Let's not
every
kill
Gmail.
ourselves,
Right?
both.
They all, yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves, both.
Everything that is on OneDrive, I'm sure gets scanned. Everything that is on Gmail, I'm sure. Yeah, you can't trust any of it. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's not open
One of
source.
them even said that they're doing this. They read the whole body of the email for you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
the difference is what I'm gonna say. Difference is what they offer you for that, and well, reality is
I go with Google. I like them. I mean,
I go with Google for email as well.
Yeah.
That-
Yeah, and the other thing with these
That's the
companies,
reason.
even if they say they're not spying on you or reading your data, just because they say that doesn't mean anything. Right.
I go for
that's the same thing I always say to
pragmatic approach. I
Yeah.
go for a pragmatic approach. They will be spying me no matter what. So I'm gonna use their services.
Yeah.
to
But
get at least
well,
something back.
I was about to go there too, Big Bud, because I hear this from Gmail users especially. I don't care if Google reads all of my emails because, at least I know they're protecting me from everybody else because of the security aspect of the Gmail site and the service. But still,
I can answer this question clearly. As a developer, when I work on my projects, I send Figma, I send part of the code, or sometimes the zip file containing the whole project. I don't like to anyone read those files and projects and software I'm developing. That's my software, that's my idea, or that's my.
That's why I use encryption.
So I don't want them to have that. That's
Well-
why I never use the GitHub. I never use any.
I was about to go there too. You can't use GitHub then if you're worried
No,
about people
no
taking
GitHub.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you should probably then use your own thing.
Yeah, spin up your own.
I launch
I-
the Ubuntu server. I just put a file server there with the password, and I put the file there, and people just grab it there. So.
I am a normal user most stuff. I use Gmail. I use Google search for two reasons. For actually one reason, they will be get the data no matter where I use email, where I search, because sooner or later that will go through some Google server. Reality is that. So
A
why
lot
don't
of
I
the
get something back from that? That's the reality situation.
I'm waiting for
I-
one day where somebody actually sues like one of these companies to see if they can actually get in on the advertising fund. Because I fully expect that like if these companies are selling your data, you should be able to profit yourself and not with just access to the service.
You should own your own data. They shouldn't own it. You
Well-
should have the rights to it.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, it's starting from your desktop, going up to the ISPs and monitoring and tapping and stuff. So I don't
I'm
believe
gonna-
that anyone really own any data.
That said, just a
Reality-
reminder for you guys: using a VPN does not prevent
Yeah.
anybody from tracking you.
Let me give you an
let me
example.
explain something.
Like
I
20 years
treat
ago,
internet- I treat internet as public space. So as soon as I connect to internet, I treat it as I'm being watched and my data is being recorded. Like when I walk outside of my house, I treat it as being watched. I won't just do something crazy.
Yeah.
I treat it as being watched. If nothing else, there probably is some satellite by some random company that just flies overhead with a camera.
Oh yeah, just look in the sky. Like here in the U.S., I'm looking up in the sky and I see drones. Like what in the hell is going on? It's
Once you're
law
outside of your
enforcement
house,
looking for
you're,
shit.
You're in public. Once you connect to it, you're in public. I treat that as public. So anything I do on internet I
Yeah.
treat as public. So that when we start treating it like that, we will start treating it how it is. For me, internet is public. For me, internet is like going outside of a house.
Well, at some point, though, what's going to happen is probably soon to Microsoft and Google is at some point the government is going to say, "Hey, you know what? You're just too damn big." Right?
No.
There will. It'll happen.
No, it won't happen because
it's real. They already
I
started.
think there's already an antitrust investigation against Google.
Actually, the government
Yeah.
is really afraid of Google, Facebook, and Amazon. They're really afraid
Yeah.
of them. So
Because they're starting to rival the government itself as far as the power they have. So we got to take them down a level.
Yeah,
And I honestly argue for the average American, Google is probably far more impactful to them than the government is.
Yeah, like imagine the guy like Elon Musk sitting on the seat and says, "I'm inventing an AI, which I am afraid of that." So, what is gonna be that you are afraid of as a commercial company, and the government don't know about that? So I would say they will.
If you ask me, government shouldn't, but no matter what companies, no matter what, government shouldn't have any kind of say in it. To me, that sounds like some akin to how it was back in the day here in Europe with socialism, where basically, government decided that company shouldn't exist anymore. We will be now this company.
I mean, the last time I heard something about the
Oh, yeah.
American government talking about security, they were talking about banning encryption. So
To me, that's control over private space.
They did something
Government
about
don't
that.
have that.
All the commercial encryption, I mean, commercial OS with the encryption, they have a backdoor. So
Well,
that's what they did.
most of it, all that is based on the curve, the ecliptic curve, or whatever it that has. But most others, most others doesn't have because even those they understand that a backdoor is a total backdoor. They aren't that crazy.
I'm gonna post something on the chat, the digital chat. If anyone concerned about the privacy, just look at those satellite around you.
Ooh, that's Starlink! Yay, that's Starlink. Those from what I know don't have a camera.
Yeah, I mean, I mean,
Yeah.
there is no privacy really.
That's Starlink.
I tell you, Google Maps has a camera though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Geostat has a camera. Every stat.
And for the
Every
people who thinks the VPN is really good for the privacy, I've been
That's right.
like using the ISA server back in time, like 20 years ago. I was using the ISA server on my network, and I could see almost everything, even the Yahoo Messenger chats the people do, everything they do, the sites, the Yahoo Messenger chat, everything with the ISA server. So I can imagine if there was an ISA server 20 years ago for that level of monitoring and tapping, so there would be much more today. So I don't
Let
really
me tell
care.
you a secret. You have when you use HTTPS, you have same level of encryption as VPN.
Yeah.
Actually, the
Yeah.
HTTPS is the same encryption as your VPN. The so-called military grade. It's called. We call it AES
military grade.
256.
it's just
call it
SHA
AES
256, isn't it?
No, it's AES 256.
AES. Okay.
SHA is a hashing algorithm. Advanced encryption standard,
Yeah.
256 bit.
Well, there's
what
only so
most of those VPNs use. That's what HTTPS uses.
there's only so much we can do with the web. I mean, at this point, I've just given up on the web.
Yeah.
You know, it's Gemini's.
Yeah. I don't care about
where it's
the
at.
Gemini is still web. At the end of the day.
You're still using the internet to connect to Gemini, which we're talking
Yeah.
about internet protocols here.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
that's until we fork the internet. It's coming.
The
What
only
are
way.
you going to fork?
Okay.
IP protocol. No, seriously. No matter how it is, internet is gonna stay. It's an internet protocol, and the reason internet is basically a set of protocols, nothing more.
When we talk about forking the internet, we're not forking the internet because this
Yeah.
is the internet. It's hardware. What if you're talking about forking something? You want to talk about forking the web. You can't fork hardware.
protocols.
You can. Well, yeah, you can fork the
Right.
protocols. Yes,
they already
but the
have
protocols
market-
are not the
At the
internet.
point, you're gonna end up at the same point. At the end of the day, you're gonna end up at the same point. Just different numbers you're gonna type in, different letters, nothing more.
The only solution gonna work here for the internet is decentralizing the data centers, data, and everything else. Like
Right.
Internet is already decentralized.
I would say
word
my
decentralized
home
is
computer would be part of the internet.
I think he's talking more like something
I
like
wouldn't
Tails,
want
where you can't
Yeah.
be tracked.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Yep.
want that. Sorry. To me,
What do you mean?
that is a crazy proposition that your computer is a part of it. Technically, it is already part of internet, but
No,
to have stuff
it's
on
not. It's not really. What I'm
Yes,
saying is that something like Tor. So
no, that won't work. Yeah, that would work.
it is working
You
very
know-
fine.
You know who
Can you
made
use Tor
Tor?
without the internet?
No. Without internet protocol and without routers, without switches, no, you can't.
Doesn't
You know
matter. If you use a Tor, no one can track you.
You sure? You sure?
Well,
100%
You
sure.
know who made Tor? You know who made Tor?
nobody's positive about that, but I promise you, I bet the NSA can get
Well,
around
yeah.
Tor.
if NSA
I believe
can,
the NSA
I know-
has. I know the FBI has.
They have
I know-
arrested
I
at least
know
one
who
person
can.
I know. Yeah.
I know who can absolutely track you, at least from my opinion. In my opinion, those who created it, United States Navy, their cybersecurity division, as far as I know, created Tor. So yeah, I bet they can track you.
Well, they recently arrested someone for their activities that they were doing on the Tor network. So I know the U.S. government has the ability to.
U.S. government created Tor. Remember
Right.
that,
So.
that U.S. Navy created Tor.
Yeah.
Naval Research Laboratory.
Ultimately, you can't get on the internet if you're plugged in.
You're using Internet Protocol
yeah.
at the end of the day. You're using IP, you're using MAC address, and you're using basically same router
You can
connection.
spoof all of that. You can have a fake Mac, you can have a fake IP, you can spoof all of
Yes,
that.
but at the end of the day, if people are watching hard enough, they will track you.
Yeah, we're not talking about having some activities like I'm talking about the idea of a Tor, not the Tor itself. The idea of a Tor.
Idea can be good enough if in reality it cannot be achieved. It has no point. And in reality, internet is basically a collection of devices, and no matter how hard you try, you won't be able to hide it. That's why I say it's a public. You are in public because technically you cannot hide. Only way you can hide is if you pull the Ethernet cable out. And even then, technically you can still connect via Wi-Fi.
The problem is right now it's too hard to even do things like Tor and Tails and things like your average person. It's not going to do that kind of stuff anyway. So we're never going to get enough people to actually want to change the internet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they just don't care.
That's not gonna happen.
Right.
The majority of users are just the Netflix.
Yeah, they just don't care.
Facebook
Yeah,
guys.
the only people that can really force a way to change the internet is whoever controls the standards or whoever controls like the actual permissions for the hardware lines. In this case here in America, it would be the U.S. government. That said, anybody that operates in the U.S. government is either too old or is too unaware of how the internet actually works.
All they just don't care. They just don't care.
Or that.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we're coming up near the end of the 2 hours here, so let's go ahead and get a last word from everybody. Everybody, just take a minute, share anything you want to say before we go. Hamid, you got any last words for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for Gen 2 video from you. I'm probably gonna.
Well, I guess I got to do it now, right?
I'm probably gonna switch to the Gen 2, and I'm working on a project which kind of porting Linux to M1 Mac, and I will share the link later. So anyone is interested as open source guy can join me. Thanks.
No, cool. All right, Josh.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, last time I was on here, I called myself a Linux desktop user, but now I can actually say that I'm a Linux desktop developer because I am writing my own window manager in the Golang programming language.
Neat.
Nice.
That said, I don't have any actual media that anybody in this chat would probably be interested in because I play a lot of D&D.
Yeah.
But if you ever want to track everything I do, just go to 10leej.com. It's 10leej.com. That gets you to this server right there. That's where I just that's where I write random blog posts, but there's also like 3 different links to like things that I do.
Well, post it in the YouTube chat. I believe you are able to do that.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, appreciate it, Josh. Ariel, are you there? I don't know if he's mic'd up or not. May not be. Let's see who else we have. Kel, but I don't think he's connected at all.
I am.
You are? Okay.
But
You have anything you want to share with us?
not really. Just sitting here, just listening to you guys while Gen 2's compiling stuff. So
Wow, this is weird. I don't know how Gen2 became the major topic of the show today. I blame
It's because
Josh.
I joined.
Yeah.
I kind of just I just wanted to jump into it.
We have to spread the glory of the world's fastest penguin. That's why.
And it actually had to do with DT doing a video on Red Core. that kind of got me interested in Gen 2 again.
Well, yeah, Redcore, I've played a lot with in the last few years. I've probably done like 6 or 7 videos about Redcore. I've installed it on physical equipment many times. It's actually a pretty good Gen 2 based distribution.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah.
It was kind of neat doing that. Then I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna do mainline.
Yeah. Because really, all a distribution like Redcore saves you is the installation process.
Yeah.
After you get Redcore installed, it's basically Gen 2, so it's still everything that you got to deal with. So
It's every Gen 2 based distribution is basically just Gen 2 with a faster installer.
yeah, that's all it
pretty
is.
much.
Well, some of them switch out OpenRC with Systemd too, but not Redcore. Redcore sticks with OpenRC.
The smart ones.
All right. Well, appreciate you hanging out. And we've got Twilight Blood. I don't know if they're mic'd up. You got anything you'd like to share with us?
I don't know, but installing Gen 2 is still a better love story than Twilight.
All right. I don't know. Twilight.
Twilight says he has no mic.
That's cool. Yeah, I've got the chat open now. Yeah, I should have had that open there. All right. Well, Murray, I know has got something to share with us.
Yeah, I do. It's nice to see Amit and Josh back. Welcome back, guys. I missed you last time. I've been using Zero Tier for a couple of months now, and it's working really well. It's reliable. I take a laptop over to the coffee shop, and I connect to my network just as it was on my home network. So I can SSH into my home computer as if I was on the network. I can use SCP to copy files. I can use SSH port forwarding to look at files and images, graphics programs, for instance, not heavyweight graphics, but lightweight. And I've created an NFS server on my home computer so I can mount that, and I have a dual pane file manager so I can copy files and folders from one pane to the other, just like the home computer on one side and my laptop on the other. So I can do an rsync, or I can copy an app image from my home computer using the file manager, which is really quite good. And I can create a shared folder for notes. So I bring up a notes folder that's on my home computer, and it looks to me in my laptop like it's a local file. I can make changes there, go home, and I can see the changes in my home computer. So, and it's never let me down. It's always been reliable. So, and it's free.
Yeah.
Zero Tier is working pretty well.
Well, I put a link in the YouTube chat for those that want to check it out. You mentioned it on the last stream too, and I think I put it in my browser bookmarks, but I haven't had a chance to look at it. Right now, I still don't have a home computer, so I've been kind of computer poor here this past month.
So
Do you need a home computer? Because I have an extra system I could just send you.
No, I'm going to get one eventually.
Okay.
It's just, it'll be, I don't know, a couple more weeks probably.
Are you settled into your new digs now, or do you still need a few? You need a beer fridge or what?
No, I've actually, this office actually has a shared kitchen that's got a fridge and a microwave, coffee machine, everything. So I don't need anything necessarily in the office itself. I thought about putting a mini fridge in here, but it's not necessary because all I would stock it with is beer, and then that would be bad.
Counterproductive. Well, thanks again guys. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out, Murray. And Big Pod, send us out with something wise.
Well, I don't have much wise right now. Still looking for a job. And, so looking for a job. That's the main thing I'm doing currently. Besides some streaming and programming.
Yeah.
PM me, please.
What?
PM me.
Okay. How can I DM you?
You can just click their name on the video feed in like the little bubble thing in the upper right, and it says send private message. You can do that.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. That sounds like Big Pod's about to get a job.
There's two persons always disagree in this room. It's me and Big Pots.
Hey, that's a good working relationship. You guys will never be able to get anything done.
Yeah. We are gonna work together.
Now you need to hire a third person to be a moderator. I'm completely willing to do that.
Yeah. So Josh is going to be the deciding vote between MySQL and Postgres when they're arguing.
Exactly, and my answer is going to be SQLite.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me get my last word in. I want to thank you guys for hanging out here with me on camera. I want to thank the folks that were here earlier and then that dropped off of the video conference call. I want to thank the patrons that couldn't be here too. So I'm going to show some names on the screen right here for those watching the YouTube stream. I want to thank each and every one of those ladies and gentlemen. I also want to thank all of you guys hanging out in the YouTube chat as well. Your questions and comments are always welcomed as well. Other than that, that's it for the stream. So guys, wave bye to the YouTube chat.
Bye, everyone.